This feels so weird. I'm going to run backwards every day for the next 30 days. Why, you might ask? Because the science that I'm going to go through in this video around this topic is really interesting. I'm Göran, a runner, coach and physiotherapist, and in this video you're coming with me for my first month of testing this weird drill. And by the end you might want to try this yourself, or you might get scared off from watching me fall backwards and potentially hurt myself. Yeah, let's find out. Okay, so here's the situation. I've been struggling on and off for the last 2 years with some patellofemoral knee pain, and I've done all the things I would recommend someone do as a physio myself. Strength training, quad work and strengthening the glutes. But every time I ramp up the mileage, the pain still comes back. Then one evening, while I was deep into digging through running related studies, I stumbled across a study that shocked me a bit. Running backwards could cut the load on your kneecap almost in half and potentially also make you run faster. At first it sounded a bit ridiculous, to be honest, but the deeper I dug, the more studies I found, and honestly, as a runner desperate to run pain-free, I was willing to try anything. Because the truth is, if I can't solve this knee pain and if it gets worse over the years, it threatens me being able to do one of the things I love the most. Running, so I had to give this a go. I will of course talk about all of those really interesting studies that I found, but first let's start this little experiment. I'm sort of hoping that nobody sees me when I'm going to try this, so that my neighbors don't start to think that I have lost it completely. So I'll start with just adding 3 times 30 seconds of backwards running integrated into my regular daily running training to not overdo it. Okay, so let's see how this feels. Okay, first 30, ooh, almost ran into the camera there. First 30 seconds done, and my first impression is that it's a bit harder than I thought it was going to be. My calves for sure had to work really hard, and also my quads have to work really hard to push me sort of backwards in every step. And now after experiencing this muscular fatigue I feel from just these short 30 seconds of backwards running, suddenly the running economy benefits I found in a really cool study sort of makes sense. So this really interesting study here actually tested the potential running economy benefits from running backwards in a controlled way. Before we start looking at this, let's quickly just remember what running economy is. Because it's not how much money you have left to spend on expensive running shoes. It is basically how much energy it takes you to run at a certain speed. So a better running economy will allow you to run faster. So in this study they took 17 trained runners, half of them told to keep running forward as usual, half told to flip around and run backwards 3 times a week. So everything else was kept exactly the same between the 2 different groups. So the same total training time and also same training intensity. And after just 5 weeks, the backward running group improved their forward running economy by 2.54%. And the control group that just ran forwards, no change at all. So to give you some context, the carbon-plated super shoes like this one, studies often show gives elite around a 4% running economy boost compared to traditional racing shoes. So this training block gave more than half of that benefit in just 5 weeks without buying anything more or training more or even training harder. It was just by swapping some forward running for backward running, they got a pretty incredible running economy boost, at least in this single study. And what's also interesting is that they didn't lose or increase fitness in other areas. VO2 max stayed exactly the same, body composition stayed the same. So the improvement purely came from that they become more efficient at running forwards, even though they added backwards running. So if we're supposed to trust this study, in just over a month you could get measurable performance gains without extra mileage, extra intensity or expensive gear. And for me, this study was the first clue that this weird running drill of running backwards might be worth taking seriously. Day 12 of running backwards every day, and I've already built up to 2 minutes times 3 inside of my runs, and it's starting to feel smoother, a bit less awkward running like this, and I haven't fell yet at least. And my knees have actually felt better over the last few days than they have in the last couple of months. Before we see what happens after another 20 days of me doing this and dive into some really interesting new studies, I want to show you something that I've been using inside of my shoes that can also give you a great running economy boost and save your knees. And it's this, a carbon fiber insole from the sponsor of today's video, Victory. These are designed to return energy with every single step, and the carbon plate restores and releases energy as you push off in your stride, giving a bit of that carbon super shoe effect in any pairs of shoes you put them in. That means better efficiency and less stress on your lower legs. I started using them because I wanted every possible advantage while keeping my knees happy, and now I use them for many of my runs, especially when I'm chasing performance or running on harder surfaces. If you want to try them out, Victory is giving my viewers a great discount plus a 90-day money-back guarantee, so you can test them risk-free and see if you like them. Just use the link in the description to this video. Day 21 of adding these little short backwards running breaks into my runs, and it sort of started to feel like a nice part of my runs to mix things up a bit. And now I'm running 3 minutes times 3 for the last couple of days, so a total of 9 minutes, which is starting to become quite much. And today I'm getting ready for an interval session, and what I found is that I think it's a really nice warm-up drill to do some backward running before harder workouts like this to get your muscles and legs ready to run fast. The only thing that worries me a bit now about this little experiment is that my calves are starting to feel really tight, so I'm really hoping that I'm not overdoing it with this backward running and we'll get some calves or Achilles problems from this, which I definitely could see happening because it's quite demanding on the calf muscles, especially if you add too much too soon. But I'm trying to not do too much of this, especially since I'm doing it every day. And when it comes to my knees, they've actually felt really good the last couple of days, so I'm positive about that, and maybe this is helping my knees. But my experience from the last couple of weeks are of course only anecdotal, so don't take my word for it. But there is some really interesting studies around this topic. And here's what might be happening. In this biomechanics study, they measured patellofemoral forces and found that forward running makes your knee deal with forces around 5.6 times your body weight, while backward running only gave you 3 times body weight. That's nearly a 50% less forces on your knee. And not only that, they also found that the peak force happened later in the stride, meaning that the stress was spread out more gradually. So what does that mean in practice? So you're still training the muscles that matters most, the quads, the calves, the glutes, but the knee joint itself isn't getting hammered as hard. So from a rehab perspective, it's like sneaking in some strength training for your legs without punishing the knees. And that idea is backed up by more than just lab data. In a clinical study, they found that for people with osteoarthritis, adding 4 weeks of backward walking, in this case, to standard rehab led to significantly less pain and better function compared to the normal program alone. And as a physio, I found this really fascinating because it's simple, it's cheap, it's low-tech, and it's seemingly really effective. And beyond rehab, there's also the injury prevention angle that I think is so important. And in this review paper here, they found that backward running works the muscles less used when running forward, like the tibialis anterior, that is still an important muscle for forwards running. And strengthening those along with the quads can help balance out the dominant posterior chain we hammer with forward running all the time. So they even found in this review that athletes who used backward running regularly in their training had a lower injury prevalence over a whole season. Now, to be clear, most of the injury prevention evidence we have is either short-term or based on biomechanics. There aren't many long-term studies yet that track actual injury rates with backwards running added. But what we do see is for sure promising. Day 30, so the moment I turn around now, I will have completed my 30-day experiment of running at least a bit backwards every day for the last 30 days. So will this be my last backward run, or will I keep going? Honestly, it's been a really fun experiment and I'm actually starting to enjoy it a bit. It feels way more natural now compared to the awkward shuffle I did at the start. Sure, it still feels a bit embarrassing, to be honest, when I pass someone running like this, especially now with a camera, but apparently I have no problem posting this to thousands of people online. But the really cool thing about this little 30-day experiment is that my knees actually do feel better than they did a month ago. Of course, this is just a study of one single person, so I'm not claiming anything, but when I put my own experience together with the research and science around the backwards running, it really does feel like there is something here. So, will I keep doing it? The answer is yes and no. I won't keep running backwards in every single run. My calves have definitely tightened up a bit, and doing it daily on top of normal running training is probably a bit too much. And honestly, I'm also looking forward to some runs where I don't have to turn around the mid-trail to start running backwards. But I will for sure keep it as a prehab drill and as a sneaky way to boost my running economy. For me, that means adding it 3 to 5 times per week during a run, and especially before harder sessions as a warm-up drill. So if you're a runner who struggles with knee pain or just want to get faster without doing more miles, backward running could be one of the simplest tools to add to your training. A huge thanks to Victor for supporting my channel and creating the great insoles I've been wearing in my shoes. If you want to check them out, there's a link in the description. Train smart, have fun, and I'll see you in the next video.